Oh boy, let me get that background out.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Tolson with the Simi Valley Interfaith Community Council. I am the token moderator tonight, and we have our two speakers, and I'm going to turn the time over to Amar.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. We will be speaking about being a Hindu in our presentation today. Most of the talking will be done by Rini Ghosh. She is a prominent leader in our community and she lives in the SoCal area. She has been involved in many chairs and committees with the UCLA and other institutions. And she will be when I was speaking to her and many others, she was the one who sort of helped me understand the scope of what a Hindu is and how a Hindu conducts themselves. So with that, without too much delay, I will hand my time to Riniji to have the conversation.
Thank you so much, Amar, for introducing me, and thank you. I hope I live up to all that you said. I thought it was on the gunas of Rama, but anyway, that mixes in with that. Let me start with a warm namaste to everyone, the Indian greeting, which means the divine in me honors the divine in each one of you. It's great to be here, and thank you to Simi Valley Interfaith Forum. So let me talk about a little bit about being a Hindu. I'm sure you all know a little bit about it anyway. Hinduism is one of the oldest existing religions in the world, and it's very different. You have to think out of the box with Hinduism because we don't have one founder, we don't have one book, we have several books, we have several founders or unknown founders even who've talked about it. We have several books, and what we say is Hinduism is very democratic. You can believe in one God and be a Hindu. You can believe in several gods and be a Hindu. You can believe even in no God and be a Hindu. Only thing you have to do is follow the dharma. The dharma is the eternal code of conduct. We believe in cosmic oneness. So the cosmic unity and cosmic justice, everything evolves around this eternal code of life. So if you don't believe in a God, that's okay, but you have to follow the dharma, the moral code of conduct for everybody. And one thing I want to tell you also is Hinduism came in very late. It wasn't our name. Our name is Sanatan Dharma, the eternal code of conduct. Dharma is code of conduct. So the eternal code of conduct, that was our name, Sanatan Dharma. But when Alexander the Great and his people wanted to cross and invade us, they couldn't pronounce the river that marks the boundary they had would cross, which was named Sindhu. They didn't pronounce the name S in their vocabulary, so they said Hindu. And people living this side of that river became Hindus. So that's how we got the name very late. So we think our religion was, in fact, it was more of a faith and more of a belief. It was sort of founded somewhere at least about 2500 BC. We have archaeological artifacts to prove those things. And slowly we evolved. We have a few books, and the main books are the Vedas, which are our real books. And even our Vedas are, like I said, it's not a set of beliefs. We are told to be seekers. We have to seek and experience the truth. So what we seek is not a belief in one God or one particular set of beliefs. We can question. So our religious books are the Vedas and the Upanishads. So one of the Upanishads is the Kena Upanishads. Kena means why. So we can just go on saying, why is this, why is that? And each one is answered. And so we place a lot of emphasis on meditation, going inwards. And that's how you experience. You have to know, who am I? And what is our connection? We are all interconnected. So when you hurt, as I said, the divine in me honors the divine in each one of you. So when I hurt any one of you, then I'm hurting myself, because we are one of the same, one part of the same whole. So so ahimsa, non-violence, is one of our main tenets. We have to practice ahimsa, and also coexistence, the oneness. As soon as we think of ourselves as individuals, we start getting uh, separated and suffering. That's how suffering starts. What our aim is, karma is the main theory of our existence also. It's the cosmic justice of the universe. So what you, as you sow, so shall you reap. So as you do, karma means action. So each action will have uh, uh, some kind of a reaction, maybe not in this life, maybe in your next life. So your past life plays a lot of part in this. So we are continuously born and reborn, like the tree. It's a sprout. It's sort of a thing in the ground. It's put in the ground, the seed. Then it sprouts up into a beautiful tree, gives shade and lots of things, fruits and flowers. And the flower tree may die, but then the seed lives on. So we believe we do it the same way. And our karmas, they are sort of the bank, the safe deposit box, or our bank account. We can either put in good work, or we can put in evil work. And if we put in good work, or bad work, whatever we do, this is the present. Right now, what we are, our past actions, right now foretells what we are. I'm sitting over here, so my past actions I've done things which makes me sit over here. But from this moment, I can change my destiny. Swami Vivekananda said, you are the creators of your own destiny. So from this very present moment, I can just change my destiny and act accordingly to mold my present and my future. So that's the karma part. In very short, I'm trying to give you everything that I can think of, which is, sort of consolidating 3,000 or maybe 4,000 years of history and thoughts is very difficult within this short time. So then we have the Vedas, we have the Upanishads, then we have the Puranas, which are stories and rituals and all kinds of fiction. And then we have the Itihasas, which are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Ramayana deals with Rama, Sita, and his family. And Mahabharata deals mainly with Krishna. And of course, the celestial song of God, which is Bhagavad Gita, is embedded in the Mahabharata. So that's one of our main things also. It's a concise form of what is our code of life, our conduct of life. Gita gives us most of that, all of that. And that is also it's a sort of answering Arjuna's questions and Arjuna's doubts that he puts to Krishna. What we think of is, which will sort of give a full emphasis on our code of conduct, and what we think of is Rama. Ramayana is a story on Rama, and Rama is the ideal man. Sage Valmiki composed the story. It had come down by verbally from generation to generation, the story of Rama. He's the ideal man. He's, of course, we say there are 10 avatars. God comes down to earth. He reincarnates himself every time there's a disbalance between good and evil. So in the Gita, Vishnu, who's one of our gods, says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavatu bharata. Whenever there's evil in the world, whenever there's an imbalance between good and evil, I reincarnate myself and I come down to earth to bring that balance again. And he promises there always will be a a little bit of evil, some sadness, some goodness. So there will be, but the balance has to be there. So to bring that balance, we had different reincarnations, and we believe Rama is one of the reincarnations. Krishna is one of the reincarnations. And in fact, we believe that, the other prophets from other religions, they are also reincarnations. Jesus, in fact, if you go to our temple, Vedanta Society in Hollywood, you will see in the altar framed photo of Mary Mother with Jesus. So when we are doing puja and our rituals, we worship them too. We worship Buddha. Buddha was, of course, a Hindu. He was born a Hindu and died a Hindu. But we worship all these, Guru Nanak, we worship these other prophets because they are the reincarnations of the God. Well, there's one God. And we believe all religions lead to the same target. The target is the same, to be absorbed in that supreme divinity. But how we go there, you can go there this way and that way, by train or plane, by car or walking. That's your business, but you have to reach there. That's the thing. So we believe all religions are true. It's not that my truth is better than your truth. All religions are true, only the ways may be different. That's one of the beliefs. So let me sort of concentrate on Rama and his gunas, because that will give a sort of, a whole thing of what we believe in, what is our code of conduct. So Rama has angunita gunas. That means he has countless qualities. But out of them, 16 are the main ones. 16 are the very important ones. So one is Kalyan Guna, Gunavan Sahishyalam, which is he used to treat everyone equally. He would treat, like even the monkeys, even the plants, everything, even the Rakshasas, they were the enemy, but he treated them equally. Now, Rama's story, let me give you a little background for those who don't know it. I'm sure everybody does, but to explain my thing, Rama was one of the 4 sons of King Dasaratha. He was born into a royal family. After a lot of, King Dasaratha had 4 wives, and he was not getting any children. So they did a lot of rituals and pujas and homa fire ritual. And then he was, Kaushalya conceived and Rama was born. So he was the king of kings. Everybody loved him because after so much prayers, he was given to Lord Dasaratha, who was this huge king, who had this huge kingdom. So he was born there, and he did like usually the princely clan and all the Hindus did at that time. They went to a guru, a teacher's house, and to learn everything. So he went to his guru, Vishwamitra, and he was taught. And then, of course, after Ram, his other 4 wives, Dasaratha's 4 wives, got children too. So he and his brothers went to Guru Vishwamitra to learn the princely things, the warfare and all the administrative values and all that. He was taught there. Then when it came time for his coronation, the second wife of Dasaratha had a boon. She said she had done something for Dasaratha, and he had said, ask me for anything you want. She had taken care of him when he was very sick in the field. So he had said then that ask me for anything you want and I'll give it to you. This was his second wife. So she had said, okay, I don't want anything now, but I'm taking this rain check. I will get to it when the time comes. So the day there was a celebration everywhere, and the coronation time came for Rama. Everybody was preparing. Then Kaikeyi came to Dasaratha and said, I want my rain check now. So Dasaratha said, sure, ask me for anything and I'll give it to you. So she said, I want your eldest son Rama to be sent to the forest for 14 years in exile. He shouldn't be coronated. My son Bharata should be crowned king. So Dasaratha immediately loved Rama, and Rama was everything that a person could wish for, that a father could wish for. So he nearly fell sick. He fainted. Then Rama came in and saw the confusion and said, but father, if you have promised, if you have committed, I have to keep your promise. That is dharma. I have to do what my Kaikeyi mother is saying. I have to go to exile because you promised you will grant her that. And everybody said no and no, etc. But he took leave and he got ready to leave for the forest in exile. Now, I must tell you, the forest in those days, 2,500 years back or even 5,000 years back, it wasn't the same as today. So it was a very difficult place, and everybody was crying, and there was a gloom in the palace. And Kaushalya, Rama's mother, came and begged him, don't go. But Rama said, I have to follow the dharma. I have to do it because it was my father who promised. So Kaushalya and one of his brothers, Lakshmana, went. And then Sita came and fell at Ram's feet. That Sita was his wife. So Sita came and fell at Ram's feet and said, I have married you, so I must follow you in sickness and in health. She said it in other words, maybe, in whatever standard you are, I have to follow you. And again, everybody told her she was the princess from a very high kingdom, but nobody, she didn't listen to everybody. She followed Rama. So the three of them left for the jungles. Now, in the jungle, what happened was, after many days, what happens is, and what we believe is, Rama is the Atma, Rama is the soul, and Sita is the mind. So what happens is, when the Atma and the mind, when the soul and mind are joined and they act together, beautiful things happen. But the mind slowly gets tempted by materialistic things, and the mind turns towards the worldly matters. And that's what happened. One day, when Rama had gone out hunting for food and all that, looking for food in the forest, Sita saw a golden deer. And she told her brother-in-law, Lakshmana, I want it very badly. I really need that golden deer. And that was the material thing that the mind had turned into. So Lakshmana said, but I can't leave you. Rama said not to leave you alone. She said, oh, I will tell Rama that I told you, but please go and get me this golden deer. As soon as Lakshmana left, then Sita was kidnapped by one of the demons in the forest. So there goes the story. There starts the real story. Sita has been kidnapped. Rama came back, found Lakshmana crying that Sita has been kidnapped. Rama was furious. Now, he wasn't like the kings of those days, because even his father had 4 wives. So if Rama was just an ordinary gentleman or an ordinary prince or an ordinary king, he could get hundreds of women to marry him, and he could forget about Sita. But he was that dharmic person. He said, no, I have married Sita. She's my only companion. She's my sole companion. So he started out looking for who has kidnapped Sita, and those forests from, about 3,000 miles he had to travel, following in the footsteps. And there were others who were telling him, there were birds and the plants were telling him, oh, Sita had gone this way. And what Sita was doing was, she had some jewelry that she was wearing, the bangles and the necklaces and all. So she started throwing them so that Rama could find her where she was going. So Rama started following those tracks, because at that time, no GPS was there. And imagine, through the forest going 3,000 miles looking for Sita. And that is one of Rama's things, that he could have had any woman in the world, but he didn't. He just stuck to Sita. He loved her so much, and he had given his soul in marriage. So he said, I'll have no one else. Everybody offered their daughters and their princesses to him. He said, no, I have to find Sita. So in the middle, then he had all kinds of adventures. He got a monkey army. Hanuman Mahavir Shami came and became his disciple and devotee. So the monkeys started following. Even some of the Rakshasas, seeing how good he was, how steadfast in his love for Sita he was, that even they joined him. So he slowly started conquering. Now remember, he had come alone to the forest, but now he's having disciples and devotees and his army of followers. He's collecting this army. So he went with this army, and all kinds of animals and birds and Rakshas and demons and humans started building up his army and started following him. So he had a huge army. He went to the tip of southern India, and the demon had kidnapped and gone to the island off the coast of southern India and kept her there. So then there was a huge fight. And in fact, the demon, whose name is Ravana, who had conquered Sita, it's a complicated story, I might tell you. The demon, but it's all related and interwoven in our dharma. So the demon who had conquered Sita, his name was Ravan. Now, Ravan was a great devotee of Shiva. He had really meditated and done so much meditation that Shiva had appeared to him and said, what boons? You can take a boon from me because you've been so good, you've been a devotee of mine, and you've chanted so well and you've meditated so well for so long, I'll give you a boon. Ravana was very egoistic and he was very sort of proud. So he said, okay, give me no man can kill me ever. I'm so strong and I'm so well built. No man can kill me. So give me a boon that no devtas, no gods, no godlings, no angels can kill me. I don't want. So Shiva said, sure. He said, yes, I just want that no gods or their angels, in India, it's lesser gods, they can kill me. He asked for that boon. So Shiva had granted. So he was a great devotee too. But what he had done is, being a devotee is one thing, but he had his bad sides. He had the bad sides are anger, lust, and greed. So he had all that. He was conquering all the people and behaving badly with the places he invaded, and he was taking the women as his slaves. So he had that, and then he had that anger. He was so angry with Ram for following him. Why can't Ram let Sita go? He can marry someone else, but I want Sita, so I will have her. He kidnapped her, but Sita was a very powerful woman too. So she had drawn a line, and she had told Ravana, the demon, that not to cross that line. So, and he was scared of that. She said that if you cross that line, you'll turn into ashes. So he hadn't crossed that line. While then the big fight was going on, and in the end, with the help of especially Hanumanji. Hanumanji is the monkey god. So the monkey god, with the great help of him, Rama won the war. And then Rama took Sita and came back. In the meantime, everybody was saying, as the thing goes, gossip goes around, they were saying that Sita, how do we know Sita is pure? And Ravana hadn't sort of attacked her. So she went through, it's called Agni Pariksha. It's a test with the fire, but she really doesn't go into the fire. But anyway, it was some kind of a test that she went through, and she proved that she was pure. So there was a big ceremony, and the 14 years were over in the meantime. And Rama and Lakshmana and Sita, with this huge following, started their journey towards Ayodhya, which is their capital city. And they organized a huge celebration. And that's why we have Diwali, which is the celebration of lights. We have that in October, November, mostly in November. We have that Diwali, the festival of lights, and that's what it is, that everybody decorated their house with lights. And the path where from Rama was entering, that was sort of filled with lights. And what are the lights in those days? Clay pots with earthen pots with oil and the cotton wick. So they were welcomed into Ayodhya, their capital city, and they were going to be coronated as king and queen. But again, there was a thing. Again, some of the now Sita had gone through the test by fire in front of his army. He hadn't reached Ayodhya then, but when he reached his capital city, some of the people again raised concerns that Sita must have done. Sita must have been attacked by Ravan. He's such a mean guy and he's so strong and he's so big. So they must have done something to her. Again, so what Ram did was, since they were speaking so much, he said, and Sita agreed, because Ram said, you're my soulmate. I don't love anybody else but you. You are a part of me, but I have to be the good king. I have to be the king and for future generation. And in the meantime, Sita was expecting, she was pregnant. So Ram said that you are the mother of my future, of the future kings. So I have to prove to my people that you are pure and the children are mine. At that time, they didn't have DNA tests or anything to prove that. So I have to prove. So you go and stay in the forest. So Sita was again exiled to the forest and Rama started ruling. And then the story goes on. There are various forms of the story. Sometimes, I don't know, how am I doing on time? Amar, how am I on time?
We have about 12 minutes.
About 12 minutes? Okay.
Yes.
So, and then of course, questions and answers. So I'm hope you're understanding, I'm explaining well what it is, the history of Rama, and then the gunas of Rama will come, because then there are various kinds of ends to the story. Some people say again, Sita came and she was again told to go through the test, the fire test. And then she said, okay, because Sita, we believe, Sita's mother was the earth. Mother Earth was her mother. So she just said, Mother Earth, take me into your bosom. And she just melted away into the earth. And some stories say that. And some stories say Rama and Sita ruled very well, and they got together and ruled well, and Lava and Kusha. Anyway, then after Sita's passing away, Rama was completely desolate and devastated. He left, and Lava and Kusha, his two sons, they were twins that were born into Sita in the forest. They started ruling the kingdom. So that's the end. Now, the gunas of, because Valmiki, the sage, it was Ramayana came down by verbally, generation to generation. Then about 500 BC to somewhere 500 BC to maybe 300 BC, sage Valmiki, who was one of the sages, he started putting this Ramayana into writing. And then he thought that Krishna was an avatar, Rama was an avatar. So he thought, why don't I make Rama, he's an avatar, he's God, but let me put him as the ideal man. So that people, if I say you follow Krishna, they might say he's God, he can do these things, but how can I do these things? But the humans have to think, if he's a human, if Rama is a human, and Rama can do these good things, then I can do it too. So he projected Rama as an ideal man, as a human being. And then he gives in the Ramayana, it's beautiful, the story, how he extols on the qualities of Rama. So there, as I said, there are more than 200 qualities, but the 16 main ones. One was the Kalyan Guna. So what was that? Ram treated everyone equally. He accepted Guha, the leader of the hunters, and Sugriva, and then even the Vanaras, the monkeys, and his brothers. Lord Hanuman was accepted as his ardent devotee, and Hanuman brought so much happiness to him when Lakshmana was hurt and he was injured in the battlefield. Hanuman went all over the forest to look for the herb that would cure Lakshmana, and he couldn't find the herb. He forgot what the herb looked like. So he was so strong, he picked up that whole mountaintop and brought it to Lakshmana, and Ram just embraced him and said, you are more than my brother. So he treated it was animal, don't treat that well, but he treated Hanuman, the monkey god, as his own brother. So that was his main thing. He treated everyone equal. Yet he was very strong and assertive. But that doesn't mean that he was a fierce warrior, but he was a very kind warrior. At the workplace, you'll come across people of two extremes. One who are fiercely aggressive, and on the other, you'll find one with full of empathy. But we need a balance, and that's the rare find. And that's Rama for you. In fact, I must tell you here, some of the Institute of Managements and the business courses are really studying this Rama's character to see how we can incorporate his thing into even our business, to be a leader, leadership qualities. The first one was giving equality to everybody. So that's one of the leadership qualities. And then the next one is being empathetic, but assertive. That's one of the leadership qualities. And you must remember, Rama, when he went into this forest, he just went with his brother and his wife. And then his wife was also taken away. But he didn't take anyone else. He didn't take soldiers or army from Ayodhya. Just the two brothers were there and his wife. Then the wife was kidnapped, so the two brothers were there. But Rama didn't get despondent. He built an army. He built an army with monkeys and animals and squirrels and birds. And then, of course, even the demons came and joined him. And he had a huge army. By the time he went to fight with Ravana, he had a huge army. And of course, humans were there too. They built bridges. They laid down, and even like there's a small story, even the squirrel, they were so impressed with Rama's qualities, they wanted to help in small way. So the squirrel, they were building a bridge across from the southern tip of India to that island. So the squirrel would go to the sand and sort of turn himself around in the sand, and the sand would get stuck to his body, and he would come and wash himself where the bridge was being built. And that's why the sand was provided. And of course, the monkeys and the birds, and they brought in rocks and stones, little stones, to build that bridge so that Rama could cross. So Rama had that quality in him. And he was immensely handsome. It said that if you saw his shoulder, then your eyes would just get stuck to his shoulder. If you looked at his feet, your eyes would get stuck at his feet, because everything was so beautiful about him and everybody just loved him. Then the other guna he had, the other quality he had, was he was completely righteous. As you saw in every dealing, he was always righteous and stuck to his values. Even he taught his father righteousness. When his father wanted to keep him back and was pleading with Kaikeyi that please don't let him go. Please take back your request and request me for any other thing, but please don't let him go. But Rama proved that he is extremely righteous. He was extremely grateful. Kalyan Guna, which is grateful. Kalyan Guna for Kritagnya, which is being grateful. After defeating Ravana, after defeating the demon who had captured his wife, Lord Rama wholeheartedly thanked the monkeys and everybody else. And then what he did was his righteousness, Rama's righteousness. He went away for 1 year as a penance to the Himalayas. So Lakshman said, what are you doing? You've killed the demon. Why are you doing penance for that? Rama said, yes, he had 99 bad qualities, and I killed those 99 bad qualities. But he had one biggest quality. The demon had one big quality, and that was he was such a devotee of Shiva. And I killed a devotee of Shiva. So I have to do my penance. So even after the 14 years of exile, he went into the Himalayas, he went up the Himalayas and did penance for a year for killing Ravana. So he was grateful. He spoke to Ravana and he was grateful. He said, thank you for letting me win and getting me back my true love, my soulmate. He always spoke the truth and nothing but the truth. That was his fifth quality. The sixth quality was he was steadfast. Ram gladly accepted to live in exile. Then one of his brothers, other brothers, Lakshman was with him. One of his other brothers, Bharata, who had become king, Kaike's son, he was supposed to be the king. So he came to Rama and he said, Rama, come back now. I'm not even talking to my mother. I'm not even looking at her face until you come back, I've told her. And she has agreed to take you back. And she said she has agreed to withdraw her request. But Rama said, no, once a promise is a promise. I will stay here for the 14 years. Please do not force me to do anything else. I have to be righteous. I have to follow the dharma. So what did Bharat do? Bharat took the shoes of Rama and said, okay, I'll never become king. I can never sit on the throne that you were going to sit on. I'll never be capable of it. So I will put your shoes on the throne and I will sit on the floor and run the kingdom that way until you come back. So Rama was steadfast. And that's why everybody that came in contact, look at Bharata, he could have been king. He could have said, oh, forget my brother. Let me be king and enjoy. No. So that's why that leadership quality, when you're that righteous, you get that. If you have that quality, you get followers. People will listen to you. So the corporate world better listen to that. They better be righteous. These leaders have to take in these qualities and feel that way, that we have to be righteous. That is one of the main things. Then the eighth guna was be emancipative. Blessed were the souls who ever met Lord Ram. Though a king, he performed the last rites of Jatayu. Jatayu was one of the huge birds that Ravana had killed on the way when he was kidnapping Sita. This big bird tried to prevent him. But Ravana injured him and Jatayu fell on the road. Rama saw that and he started taking care and got Jatayu well. So he was very, very kind and generous again. Again, a leader, a leadership quality. Kalyan Guna 9, Vidwan. He was a leader of knowledge. He had the knowledge to be the leader. You just can't be a leader and be superficial about it. You have to go deep into a subject, know that subject to be a leader of those people. You'll have, if you compare them with the corporate leadership nowadays, you'll have PhDs under you, but you have to know what you're dealing with. So you have to be knowledgeable. You have to have that immense knowledge. And Rama had that immense knowledge of Shastras, the Vedas, the Puranas. Rama had that knowledge. Then he has to be capable. Kalyan Guna 10, he was capable. Lord Rama was considered as capable of doing absolutely anything in this world. As a child, he defeated all the demons single-handedly. When he married Sita, he had to fire, he had to sort of think of bow and arrow. He had to sling a bow and arrow, which was very heavy. And Sita said, whichever man could do that, I'm going to marry him. At that time, see how India was very progressive. The princesses could choose, or the women could choose their husbands if they wanted to. So Sita said, I want that man. And Rama did that. He was very capable and very strong. And as I said, the 11th guna, he was Priyadarshini. He was presentable. He was beautiful. He's described as, Aravinda Lochana, all kinds of Sanskrit words, meaning tall, well-built, and very, very handsome. When you look at him, you're mesmerized. A book is always judged by the cover. What is attractive gets sold. Also, people like to connect and work with those who are presentable. So work on yourself, not just on the physical appearance, but also on your internal well-being. Then guna number 12 was he was extremely spiritual. He was a spiritual master. That a spiritual person is better engaged at work and thus is more efficient. A spiritual person, he's not greedy. The first thing of being spiritual is not to fear. Fear and greed, we are told, are the two main vices we can have. Fear leads to greed. Fear leads to all kinds of vices. And greed, after being led by fear, greed leads to the others. So these two are complementary and supplementary, fear and greed. And Rama was above that. He didn't have any fear. He went into the forest with just his brother. He didn't have an army. He could have asked for, oh, I need security. Come follow me. He said, no, I'll just go. And Lakshmana followed him and Sita followed him. So he was extremely brave. He was spiritual. He was fearless. And the 13th guna, they say, the 13th quality is be calm. Ravana was a learned Brahmin himself. He was Ravana, the demon. He was an ardent devotee of Lord Shiva. But Lord Rama, who is worshipped, and the only difference in Lord Rama's ability is to stay calm in the fiercest situation. You can't let fear or any kind of excitement, anxiety overtake you. To be a leader, you have to be calm. You have to exude that calmness and pass it on to your followers. So he was that. His 14th quality was be radiant. The moment Hanuman had set his eyes on Lord Rama's face, he felt shaken. His bones were melting. He felt goosebumps. Hanuman is the monkey. And tears of joy and love. Whoever saw him just fell in love with him because the inner beauty showed out on his face, on his body. The inner beauty was such that it just drew people to him. He attracted people like magnet, and that you have to work on. You just can't say, oh, I'm beautiful, and have your facelifts and all that. You have to be inside, beautiful inside, to have that glow, to have that attraction, be the magnet to attract everybody. And you have to cultivate that. He was admirable because he had so much control over his emotions, over his fears, over his greed. So everybody admired him in everything he did. Even Bharata took his shoes, his other brother who could be king. He took his shoes and put it on the throne because he had seen Rama from when he was young. They had played together and Rama had always exuded that love, that kindness with his brothers. He never made fun of them. Even if they couldn't do some kind of job, he would complete it for them. So Bharata had a different kind. He could never sit on the throne that Rama would sit on. See, imagine what kind of leadership qualities he had. But he was dreaded. When he was angry, we really knew that you're not doing anything spiritual. If you're doing evil, then everybody dreaded him. If anybody did wrong, they completely hid from him because he could just get so mad, and nobody wanted him mad. They all wanted his love. That's how it comes. When you're a leader, you want all your followers to love you so much that they wouldn't want you to get angry on them. So that's why you do the right thing. So summing it all up, the 16 noble qualities might sound overwhelming. You need to understand you cannot develop all of them at once. It takes time. You'll have to begin taking small steps so that you can too become career Purushottam, career leader, career the best man. So I think that about does it for now. Now I can go in for questions. Of course, if you wanted to, I could go in for a whole lot more, but I think it's best to go in for questions now. Good. What do you think, Amar?
I see two questions posted in the chat.
Okay.
The first one is, how much of these stories do Hindus believe are true history or meant as metaphors with spiritual lessons to teach value?
Okay.
That's the first one.
Okay. As I said, our books, our Hindu books, there are the Vedas, which are the spiritual books. Then there are the Puranas, which are the stories. Vedas, Upanishads, which are the real books, the spiritual books. And Ramayana and Mahabharata are called itihasas. So they are historical, but most of them, as you can imagine, it came down orally from generation to generation. So there has been lots of things built on it. And of course, there are metaphors. So we sort of look at it as historical romances. They are history. Rama was there. He was born. It's been proved. He was born and where he was born. All those are being proven still. Lots of research work being done on that. So there was a figure called Rama who fought the battle, but the other things are you're very true, they are metaphors. Because Valmiki wanted this ideal man to be there. He is a reincarnation of Vishnu. He was a prophet, but he was an ideal man. So everybody started building in on that ideal man. So you're very right. There are metaphors and all kinds of things built on him, but it is historical. Does that make sense?
Sure does.
There's a second question.
Uh-huh.
If you believe that the later avatars were the return of the manifestation of God, why did they not become followers of Moses, Christ, Muhammad, etc.?
Because at that time, India, geographically, Indians were wherever, they were far away from that country, Moses. And so Moses was sent to his part of the world, and Rama was sent to his part of the world. And we have lots of, like I said, we worship Jesus, we worship Buddha, because we saw them, we've read their things, and that's why we have become sort of, not followers, but even like Vivekananda said, if you're a Hindu, be a good Hindu. If you're a Christian, be a good Christian, because all the tenets, all the principles actually are the same. They lead to the same things, excepting for a few rituals here and there, and a different way of getting about it. We have the same target, and we believe in the same truth, that there is one power, there is that supreme power, which is ever compassionate, which is ever gentle, who's our Father. In fact, we say, I just did a panel on, oh, God gives us this suffering. No, God would never give us this suffering. Some people say, why did God make this one so rich and me homeless? God didn't make you that. How can, if you have a parent, and if the parent has 2-3 children, will the parent plan the destiny of the children, that one will become rich and one will become poor? A parent will never plan that. They will always be planning the same thing. So God is that. It's the same for everybody. God is that compassionate, the ever compassionate, the ever loving. Now, how we plan our lives and how we get to do things, that's our fault, and we can correct it.
What a fantastic presentation. We are so grateful for you to have come tonight. Now, if there are those who are either on the call or who will watch this recording and want to learn more about what you've been talking about, I understand, is there an India Community Center that's where you teach at, or is there somewhere else to go to or who to talk to?
You can always email me. And of course, we have our Vedanta Society in Hollywood. And you can always email me. And I'm so glad I could answer anything. But let me tell you, I do a lot of interfaith work. And I'm connected. In fact, I did the Loma Linda University on suffering, world religions on suffering. We did that panel. And then UCLA does a lot of panels. So I'm on a lot of panels, but actually I have my businesses that I run, and I have a factory in India that I run. So I don't teach in any of these temples or whatever, but you can get to me anytime. I would love to. In fact, just now I'm answering a question on caste system from one of the students who's a senior in one of the schools in Torrance, high school in Torrance. So I'm just writing. I told her tonight I'll write, after I finish this, I'll write her an essay on the caste system in India.
Wow.
So I always do that. So I'll be immensely grateful. If you send me anything, I'll be honored to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Amar, can you speak to what we do, what your organization or group does here in Simi Valley as it relates to that India Community Center? Is that, I think it's at the corner of Royal and Erringer.
That is correct, yes. I'll turn on my camera. Good evening, namaste. So we currently are working on two different projects in Simi Valley. I work with an organization called Seva International. Seva is basically do service in Sanskrit.
Mhm.
So and the goal of this organization is basically to be operational during a crisis time of crisis, and we deemed that we deemed that the pandemic was a time of crisis when everybody, I mean, it sort of shook everybody in different ways. And one of the things that the city had found was there was significant unemployment, and there was also a significant impact on people's lifestyles. So we started a food drive, and we have been running it for almost a year and a half now. And you, John, you have been we have been in contact ever since. But the good news is that the food drive has essentially served about 11,000 families over the past year, and we've given away. I can tell you maybe half a million meals,
Wow.
close to that much, and this is all in Simi Valley alone. And based off of this, what we're doing now is we are starting a free store in Simi Valley. That means that anybody can go into the store, pick up whatever is available there, and walk out of the store without having to pay anything. This store will become operational sometime in mid-May, and this is going to be right next to the Stater Brothers on Los Angeles and 4th Street. This will be the first of its kind in our county, and we're hopeful that with support from the community and other organizations, we should be able to launch a few more in the greater Los Angeles area before in the next few years.
Amar, I'm so glad you told me about this. In fact, we had a foundation. We still have it, but it's a little inoperational now. VICC, Vedanta International Cultural Center, and we would do homeless feeding. Most of the men, they work at NASA. One of them, one works for one of the bigger medical corporations. Anyway, they used to cook for 200 people, and we would feed the homeless in Long Beach. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we had to stop that because contacts were not there. So what we do is sometimes send in small amount of food to be distributed, sandwiches and all. But we used to do Indian food, and our guests had about 200 to 50 guests. Sometimes it went up to 400 homeless people, and we used to feed them. And they would love our food. So every week, we used to feed once a month or once in 2 months. And other organizations would feed also. And then we also took care of the foster kids. So I would love to sort of connect with you, because my boys in the team, my teammates, are itching to do something. And
that'd be lovely.
somehow it's been stopped because of this. And I know in Long Beach, exactly, we had Amelia Nieto. Did you know her? She would do exactly what you're doing. But unfortunately, she got very ill, and her store used to do the same things. People would just go and pick up, and even clothes she used to keep, and they would pick those things up. But she got very sick. So we gave her a good award and all that, but now it's not working. So maybe we'll talk and get those things working in Long Beach also then.
Definitely, that'd be lovely.
I would love to connect up with you, and my teammates would be too happy. They are just itching and killing me. When are we going to go out and feed again? They're saying so.
Right. So the second project we are doing is in the same facility. We will have a small kitchen, and that will serve about between 200 to 300 meals every day.
Mhm.
It'll be prepared meals, and they're primarily going away to the senior center and the I forget the other place. I apologize, but the Samaritan Center in Simi Valley.
Okay.
Let me, from an outsider's point of view, one of the beauties of Amar's organization is that you go on a Saturday to the middle school and you see the workings going on, and the lack of adult leadership is obvious. And what's the beauty of it is that there are these youth who are have been empowered and given training, and they take charge and they are running the entire organization, from lining the people up to taking their information to loading up their stuff. And you're going, these are kids doing this, and it gives me goosebumps just to tell the story, because this is the future of our country, because of the leadership that's happening and the growth that's happening through Amar's organization.
I'm so honored to meet Amar and you, because this is what my passion is in. And we started it from 2005 or 2006. We started our thing and we were doing so well, but pandemic, my son, I have a 30-year-old son who I'm very proud of. He's amazing, but he won't just let me go out. He's scared. Oh, mom, you'll catch the pandemic. So we've stopped everything, but we have to take it up. I'm so very honored that you're doing it. I'm so very proud that you're doing it. And really, the youth are the main thing. And I must tell you about this. Doing interfaith work, you meet a lot of the youngsters nowadays. They say, we don't want to listen to lectures. We are nuns. They say NONES. We belong to none of the spiritual organized religion. We want to, and that's what our people also told us, our youth told us, we want to feed. We want to play with the foster kids. We want to have parties with the foster kids. So that's what they want to do. So this is the right way to go. I'm going to get you go crazy, because I'm going to go on calling and really linking up, and maybe we can do something this side also with the same thing going.
Well, in the big picture of things, as these youth are doing this service, they are learning those 16 qualities, right?
Exactly.
And the learning happens in real time versus let's sit down and talk about it.
Exactly. Swami Vivekananda, who came to 1893, he came for the Parliament of World Religions, and he brought the Eastern philosophy to US. So he said, Shibo Gyane Jibo Sheba. That means service to the humans is the real worship of God. So don't, and he also said, don't feel very high and mighty that you are giving something to the less fortunate. They are giving something to you. You are obliged to them because they're letting you give that thing to them. So yeah, it's amazing. And I'm so glad that I did this today. I could get connected with all of you.
Again, thank you so very much. Thank you, Amar, for connecting all of us. We're going to wrap this up, but let me share with you that on March 24th, we're going to do this again with another group. It'll be via Zoom at 7 o'clock on the 24th of March. We're going to have Ryan Kapanik, and I think his wife is going to be joining us. And we're going to continue this series of interfaith discussions. We appreciate those who ask questions. We appreciate Rini for her presentation, and Amar for all the work he's doing and continues to do here in Simi Valley. And as a part of the Interfaith Community Council, we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and make sure that you share with those, either one, the recording of this, or two, to invite those to join us on the March 24th event, and have a wonderful evening. And as Rini said, namaste.
Hey, can I get a link of this talk?
The recording?
I will share it with you, Riniji.
Thank you so much, Amar. Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Amar. I'm terribly impressed. And I must have gotten onto the right side of the thing today because of my bed today, because to meet you all was a real honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.